everybody, and welcome back to Good Orderly Direction, Practical Tools of the Bible. Today we are discussing Genesis 42, Joseph reunites with his brothers. I'm your host, Dr. Dawnalise Snipes. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you staring blankly at each other? Go to Egypt and buy some grain so that we can survive." Think about how often, when you're confronted with adversity, sometimes you may just be so overwhelmed with the situation, you can't even figure out what can I do? How can I help myself? You're stuck in this mode of crisis and despair. Well, Jacob told his sons to get out of that cycle and do something about it. Go to Egypt and get some grain. Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. However, Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin along with his brothers because he thought something bad might happen to him. Joseph was the land's governor and was selling grain to all the land's people. When Joseph's brother arrived, they bowed down to him, their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they didn't recognize him. It had been a long time since they'd seen him. Joseph remembered the dreams he had dreamed about them and said to them, "You're spies. You've come to look for the country's weaknesses." Think of times that people did wrong to you. If you kept a mindset of love and abundance instead of resentment and envy, did it ultimately help you surpass what you thought possible? When faced with disappointment or betrayal, how can you regroup and get focused on living a life of good orderly direction toward becoming the person that you're meant to be? Joseph's brothers said to him, "No, master, your servants have come to buy food." Joseph said to them, "It's just as I've said, you are spies. But here's how to prove yourselves. As Pharaoh lives, you won't leave here until your youngest brother arrives. Send one of you to get your brother, but the rest of you will stay in prison. We will find out if your words are true." Joseph at this point was being kind of hard on his brothers, not necessarily out of revenge, but to bring them to full repentance and calm his fears that they had not harmed Benjamin as well. Remember, Joseph and Benjamin were the two sons of Rachel. Rachel had died, and the Leah's sons, the remaining brothers, were jealous of Joseph and had sold him into slavery. So Joseph hasn't been around for a while, and he's kind of concerned that they've done something bad to Benjamin too, and he wants proof. Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this and you will live, for I'm a God-fearing man. Let one of your brothers stay in prison, and the rest of you take your grain and go home. Then bring your youngest brother back to me." The brothers said to each other, "We're clearly guilty for what we did to our brother Joseph. That's why we're in this danger now." So their guilt is starting to catch up with them a little bit. Have you ever done wrong to someone else and ultimately had to atone for it? A good old-fashioned moral inventory can be beneficial for anyone. It helps you release guilt, silence that critical inner voice that is all too happy to remind you of everything you've ever done wrong. Nurture present relationships. When you do that moral inventory, you identify things that you've done wrong, and then you can go to those people, hopefully, and make amends, or at least apologize, and start nurturing the relationship, start helping it heal. When you nurture your relationships, it increases your support and abundance in the present. When people see that you are starting to behave respectfully and with integrity, they start to be more supportive and trusting of you. Doing a moral inventory can also help others heal from hurt and resentment that they may be holding on to. Sometimes it just takes one person to take that first step, but somebody's got to do it. Reuben responded to his brothers, "Didn't I tell you don't do anything wrong to the boy? But you wouldn't listen. This is payback for his death." They didn't know that Joseph was listening in. Joseph stepped away and wept. When he returned, he took Simeon. Now, if you'll remember back to when Joseph was sold into slavery, Simeon was one of the ringleaders of the bunch that wanted to either kill him or throw him into the pit. So when he returned, he took Simeon and tied him up in front of them. Simeon's kind of having a hard time of it. Then Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to put back each man's silver into his own sack, and to give them provisions for their trip. And it was done. They loaded the grain onto their donkeys and set out. When they stopped for the night, they found the silver at the top of their sacks. Their hearts stopped. Terrified, they said to each other, "What has God done to us?" Was it God, though? Mind reading and assumptions often backfire. The brothers felt guilty for what they had done and they feared punishment, so they assumed that this was punishment and this was a trick to make them look like thieves, so they would be put in prison and sold into slavery just like they had done to their brother. However, Joseph wanted them to come back with Benjamin. This may have been a gesture of goodwill, of forgiveness, but the brothers assumed the worst. It also may have been a gesture out of love and compassion for his father, because Joseph wanted to ensure his father's continued survival. Or it could have been a backup plan, knowing that Jacob, his father, wouldn't keep the silver. Jacob was a very God-fearing man. He was very prudent in what he did. He was earnest. He behaved with integrity, and he was respectful of other people. So if he thought he had ill-gotten gains, he wouldn't let it stand. So Joseph knew that, if this gets back to Jacob, to dad, that he's going to send them back. And his hope was that they would come back with Benjamin. How much energy have you wasted assuming you knew what other people were thinking and fearing that they were angry with you and you were going to be punished? Maybe they already forgave you, but you don't know this. How many opportunities have you missed because you assumed people would not help you, because you'd done them wrong in the past and you hadn't apologized, or you didn't think they would accept your apology? This sort of foreshadows Matthew 6, the Lord's Prayer, that verse in there that says, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." The brothers in this story, obviously, they don't know this is Joseph at this point. So they are not going, "Oh, Joseph is going to make life rough for us. We need to be worried that he wants revenge." They think that God is doing this. But it's important to recognize that if they don't think that God is able to forgive, that may indicate that they're not willing to forgive. A lot of times we project things on other people, our own flaws. What we don't like about other people is often a reflection of what we don't like about ourselves. When they got back home, they told Jacob everything that had happened to them. Jacob said to them, "You've taken my children from me. Joseph's gone, Simeon's gone, and now you're taking Benjamin? All this can't really be happening to me." Reuben said to his father, "You may put both of my sons to death if I don't bring him back to you. Make him my responsibility, and I will make sure he returns to you." But Jacob said to him, "My son won't go down with you because his brother's dead and he's been left all alone. If anything were to happen to him on the trip you are taking, you would send me, old as I am, to my grave in grief." Now, this is an interesting little passage that just a couple of words, if you jump over them, you may not notice. But he says that Benjamin has been left all alone. Now, these are his brothers. Leah's sons are still there. However, Jacob says Benjamin has been left all alone because Joseph has disappeared, which indicates that there is a lot more of a rift in this family than maybe we've been led to believe at this point. Additionally, it shows that Jacob doesn't really trust Leah's sons to take care of Benjamin. The last time he saw Joseph, he had sent Joseph out to check on the brothers, and Joseph disappeared. So ostensibly, between then and now, he has kept Benjamin quite close to him in order to prevent the brothers from, at the very least, failing to protect. We get the feeling from reading this chapter that it's possible that Jacob may think, somewhere back in his head, he may think that the older brothers did something nefarious to Joseph, which they actually did. The principles in this chapter are endurance, the courage that the brothers had to use in order to go to Egypt to try to get the grain. And then the courage we see when Reuben offers to protect Benjamin, and Simeon is stuck back in Egypt with Joseph. So we see a lot of courage starting to come out here. But we still haven't seen them own up to what they've done. We see compassion. Joseph has compassion for his family. He could be really bitter and resentful and say, whatever, you threw me into slavery, so why don't you just go starve, see if you can find seeds on your own. But he doesn't. He says, all right, not only am I going to give you the grain you need, but I'm going to give you all of your money back. And that's compassion. He recognizes, just like by the position he's in, not only is he benefiting the Israelites, he's benefiting the Egyptians. By being compassionate, not only is he benefiting his brothers, but he's also benefiting his father. And in order to achieve that end, to take care of his father, the brothers go along with it. So he's radically accepting that he has to help both. And maybe he wanted to. We don't see any indication that he still harbors ill will or resentment. And truthfulness. At this point, Joseph is trying to get the brothers to admit what they've done and atone for their sins.